We're bringing in consultants with fresh perspectives, Evans, Mr. Thorne stated, his gaze fixed firmly on the gleaming screen of his tablet, never once meeting my eyes. He casually slid a stark white envelope across the expansive, cold glass of the modern conference room table that separated us. Your Aegis system, frankly, is a significant impediment to achieving our key performance indicators. His voice was as sterile as the room, each word delivered with an unnerving detachment that sent a shiver down my spine. My name is Noah Evans. I am 45 years old, and until that very moment, that heart-stopping, world-tilting moment, I had been the principal software engineer at NovaCore Solutions for 17 long years. 17 years of my life poured into this company, into its very digital soul. I was the one who had meticulously built the Aegis system, our core software platform, from nothing more tangible than late nights, endless lines of code, and the potent aroma of strong coffee, back when NovaCore Solutions was just a fledgling idea. A team of 6 of us huddled together in a small, hopeful warehouse somewhere in Seattle. The memory of those foundational days, the raw passion, the shared dream of creating something revolutionary, felt like a distant, painful echo now. I nodded slowly, my face a mask of calm I didn't truly feel, and reached for the packet. The paper felt unnaturally heavy in my hand. I didn't argue, didn't plead for my job. What would be the point? I understand, I said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. I then began the surreal process of packing the contents of my desk into a plain cardboard box, acutely aware of the silent, watchful presence of an HR representative. Mr. Thorne, the new CEO, had been with NovaCore Solutions for exactly 3 months. He was a young man, barely 38, a sharp import brought in by Sterling Capital Group, the private equity firm that had acquired us the previous year. He favored expensive, custom-tailored suits and spoke incessantly about streamlining operations and modernizing our approach, with a vocabulary that felt alien to the company culture Mr. Bishop had painstakingly built. He never once, in all those 3 months, asked me how the Aegis system, the very heart of our operations, actually worked, what made it tick, what kept it alive. That very morning, I had watched him stride confidently into the office, flanked by 2 consultants from Innovatech Partners, some trendy firm based out of San Francisco, their expressions a mixture of arrogance and clinical assessment. It didn't take a genius, and certainly not a principal software engineer with nearly 2 decades of experience, to see the writing on the wall, to understand precisely where this meticulously orchestrated performance was headed. 17 years. 17 years during which I'd turned down more lucrative job offers from other companies, missed my son's vital teenage baseball games, and spent countless, exhausting nights troubleshooting critical server issues while the rest of the city, slept soundly. I did it all because I believed, truly and deeply, in what we were building, in the value Aegis provided. They gave me 30 minutes to clear out my professional life. I took 15, each second a small, sharp sting of indignation. On my way out, my box of personal belongings feeling like a lead weight in my arms, I passed Emily from accounting. She'd been with NovaCore Solutions almost as long as I had, a friendly face through thick and thin. Her eyes, usually crinkling with a smile, widened in shock and concern as she saw the box. "Noah, what's happening?" she whispered, her voice laced with disbelief. "Time for fresh perspectives, Emily," I said quietly, the corporate jargon feeling hollow and cruel on my tongue. The security guard, Ben, walked me out. He was a good kid, hardworking and kind. His father and I sometimes went fishing together on quiet weekend mornings. He looked at the polished floor, unable to meet my gaze. "I'm really sorry about this, Mr. Evans," he mumbled, his discomfort palpable. "Not your fault, Ben," I replied, trying to inject a reassurance I didn't feel into my voice. I drove home in a profound, suffocating silence. No music from the radio, no distracting phone calls, just the steady, rhythmic sweep of the windshield wipers battling the relentless Seattle rain. Each swipe a monotonous measure of my dawning new reality. My wife, Sarah, wasn't home from her errands yet. The house felt unusually empty, echoing my own internal hollowness. I set my box of abruptly severed ties on the familiar comfort of the kitchen counter. I carefully pulled out my favorite coffee mug, a collection of cherished family photos that had adorned my desk, and a small, unassuming external hard drive, nothing that belonged to NovaCore Solutions, only my personal effects. Then, moving almost on autopilot, I made a pot of strong coffee, the aroma usually a comfort, now just a reminder of countless late nights worked. I sat down with my personal laptop, its worn keys a familiar landscape. I opened a folder, one I'd created many years ago, a digital contingency plan I hoped I'd never need. Inside was the meticulously organized documentation, the digital breadcrumbs proving unequivocally that I had written the core algorithm, the Cerberus engine that powered NovaCore's entire Aegis system, on my own personal time, using my own equipment, long before I was officially an employee. The timestamp on the files and the official copyright registration predated my employment contract with NovaCore Solutions by a crucial 6 months. I had offered it to the company, to Mr. Bishop back then, on a perpetual license basis, a critical detail that Mr. Thorne and his fresh perspectives from Sterling Capital Group had clearly and foolishly never bothered to research in their due diligence. I sipped my coffee, the liquid hot and bitter against my tongue, a grim certainty settling in my chest. I wouldn't need to wait long. The Aegis system, without its architect, without someone who understood its intricate soul, would begin to falter. The first critical system failure, I predicted with a cold, detached logic, would occur within days. I first met Samuel Bishop back in 2004 at a bustling programming conference down in Denver. We found common ground, a shared, deep-seated frustration with the cumbersome and inefficient inventory management systems prevalent at the time. He had just co-founded NovaCore Solutions with a couple of partners and 3 bright-eyed developers. Their initial product showed incredible promise, a spark of genius, but it critically lacked the ability to scale, to grow with their ambitions. Over a couple of beers in a noisy hotel bar, I excitedly sketched out an algorithm on a napkin, a novel approach that I believed could solve their persistent database bottleneck. He listened intently, his eyes lighting up with understanding. He hired me on the spot, a handshake sealing the deal before the night was over. For the first 5 intense years at NovaCore Solutions, we practically lived at the office, fueled by ambition and takeout food. 80-hour weeks were the norm, not the exception. I vividly recall the sting of missing my daughter's first tentative steps because I was desperately debugging a series of cascading server crashes that threatened our biggest client. Sarah, my wonderfully patient wife, nearly left me twice during that period, her frustration and loneliness entirely justified. "You're married to that company, Noah," she'd say, her voice a mixture of hurt and resignation. And she wasn't wrong. NovaCore had consumed me. When Mr. Bishop suffered a serious heart attack in 2011, a shockwave went through the small, tight-knit company. I stepped up, not as CEO. I never wanted that particular burden, that kind of spotlight, but as the unwavering technical backbone. I kept the Aegis system running smoothly, a beacon of stability, while everyone else around me understandably panicked. When potential investors came sniffing around, intrigued by our growing reputation, I was the one who confidently walked them through our impressive growth metrics, explaining the solid foundation of our technology. When formidable competitors tried to poach our invaluable engineering talent, I personally convinced our key engineers to stay, appealing to their loyalty and the exciting future we were building together. Mr. Bishop sold NovaCore Solutions in 2019. He told us he was tired, that he yearned to spend more quality time with his grandkids, to finally enjoy the fruits of his labor. I understood his decision, respected it even, but I couldn't shake the feeling that the first hairline crack was forming in the company's foundation. The new owners, a faceless conglomerate, were different. Their entire focus seemed to be on quarterly numbers, profit margins, and aggressive growth projections, a stark departure from Mr. Bishop's more people-centric, long-term vision. Then came the global pandemic, a period of unprecedented uncertainty and upheaval. Our Aegis system, a testament to its robust design, kept functioning flawlessly when many other critical systems around the world faltered and failed. Our clients' hospitals overwhelmed with patients, vital supply chains stretched to their limits. Government agencies coordinating essential services relied on us, on Aegis, completely. I worked 20-hour days during that crisis, a relentless, exhausting vigil, ensuring that nothing broke, that our systems remained a steadfast pillar of support. The board eventually gave me a commemorative plaque and a modest bonus, nice gestures, I suppose, but they felt strangely inadequate given the monumental effort. Last year brought another acquisition, this time by Sterling Capital Group, a private equity firm with a reputation for ruthless efficiency. They swiftly installed Marcus Thorne as the new CEO. A mere 2 weeks after he started, his expensive shoes barely settled under his new desk. He summarily canceled our annual development retreat, a vital team-building and innovation event, callously labeling it an unnecessary expense. The irony was not lost on me that its cost was considerably less than his own hefty signing bonus. 3 weeks into his tenure, he unilaterally reorganized the entire engineering team without consulting me, the architect of the very system his strategy consultants, a group of his old Stanford buddies, were now supposed to optimize. A month ago, during a tense management meeting, he publicly dismissed me as old school, his tone dripping with condescension, asserting that NovaCore Solutions needed to rethink our entire approach from the ground up. I saw it coming, the inevitable collision course. But I kept my head down, focused on my work, and most importantly, kept the Aegis system running, a silent act of defiance and dedication. Sarah, with her uncanny perceptiveness, noticed something was deeply wrong long before I was ready to admit it. "They're pushing you out, aren't they, Noah?" she asked one evening, her voice gentle but direct, her eyes searching mine for the truth. "Maybe," I'd conceded, unable to fully voice my fears. "What are you going to do, honey?" she pressed, her concern a warm blanket. I just shrugged, a noncommittal gesture that masked a maelstrom of internal conflict. But that following weekend, a quiet sense of foreboding gnawing at me, I meticulously updated all my personal records. I double-checked my copyright registration for the Cerberus engine, ensuring every detail was accurate and irrefutable. I made absolutely certain that my personal code repositories, containing the original source code of the algorithm, were properly documented and secured. It wasn't because I planned to cause trouble, not at all. It was simply because I believe, and always have, in being thoroughly prepared for any eventuality. Through all the changes, the mounting pressure, and the eroding company culture, I kept one critical piece of information entirely to myself. The original Cerberus engine algorithm, the mathematical beating heart of every single product and service NovaCore Solutions sold, had never actually been transferred to the company as an asset. I had licensed it to them, a crucial distinction. There's a difference, a very big, legally binding difference. 3 days after my abrupt termination, I was in the backyard attempting to fix a section of our weathered wooden fence, the rhythmic clang of the hammer a welcome distraction, when my phone started buzzing incessantly on the patio table. A quick glance revealed 5 missed calls from NovaCore Solutions' main number, 2 more from Mr. Thorne's direct line, and 1 terse voicemail blinking insistently. Curiosity, mixed with a cynical premonition, got the better of me. "Evans, this is Marcus Thorne." His voice, usually so confident, now held a distinct edge of urgency, perhaps even a hint of panic. "We seem to be experiencing some significant issues with the core systems." A beat of silence. "We need your expertise to resolve this." Another pause, longer this time. "Call me back as soon as possible. It's critical." I calmly put my phone back down, screen facing the wood, and picked up the hammer again. The solid thud of metal on wood, a strangely satisfying sound. An hour later, the barrage resumed. More calls, a flood of text messages from my former, frantic team members. Noah, Aegis is crashing all over the place. Nobody here knows what to do. The new consultants are clueless. I think those Innovatech guys broke something fundamental in the Cerberus engine. Clients are going ballistic. They're threatening to pull their contracts if we don't fix this now. The digital cries for help painted a vivid picture of the chaos I had anticipated. I finished repairing the fence, the neat, solid planks, a small testament to order amidst the burgeoning disorder at my old company. I showered, washing away the sawdust and the lingering tension, and then made dinner for Sarah and the kids, my son, now a lanky teenager, and my daughter, still navigating the wonders of middle school. We watched a movie together, a light-hearted comedy that felt worlds away from the drama unfolding at NovaCore. I deliberately turned my phone off, silencing the desperate pleas from my past. Next morning, I woke up to an email from Mr. Thorne, the subject line blazing in capital letters. Urgent. Consulting opportunity, immediate response required. He was now offering me $300 per hour, a significant sum, to come in and assist with ongoing transition issues. His carefully chosen words a masterpiece of corporate euphemism, with absolutely no mention of the unceremonious dismissal just 3 days prior. I drafted a polite, brief email declining his generous opportunity. By noon, their legal team, the big guns from Sterling Capital Group, had contacted me directly. The email was filled with vaguely threatening legal jargon about proprietary technology and employee obligations post-employment, a clear attempt at intimidation. I forwarded it to my lawyer without a single word of comment, letting the professionals handle the bluster. My lawyer called me an hour later, a distinct sound of amusement in his voice. Noah, they clearly haven't even bothered to read your original contracts, have they? He chuckled. The copyright for the Cerberus engine is unequivocally registered to you personally, predating your employment. He continued, his voice firming with professional confidence. You granted NovaCore Solutions a license, and that license specifically, and very clearly, prohibits any modification of the core algorithm without your explicit written consent. A satisfied pause. You're completely in the clear, Noah. They don't have a legal leg to stand on. That's when the full, crushing reality of their betrayal truly hit me like a physical blow. 17 years of my life. All that sacrifice, the missed school recitals and important family birthdays, the countless sleepless nights spent nursing servers back to health, the unwavering loyalty, and they had discarded me, dismissed my contributions like a piece of outdated, obsolete hardware. A quiet, cold anger began to simmer beneath my calm exterior. I walked into my home office, the room where so much of Aegis had been born, and pulled out a business card I'd kept tucked away in my desk drawer for nearly a year. The card read, Olivia Hayes, CTO, Apex Innovations. Ms. Hayes had approached me at an industry conference the previous spring, her sharp intellect and genuine admiration for what I had built at NovaCore Solutions leaving a strong impression. Noah, she'd said then, her handshake firm, her gaze direct. If you ever find yourself looking for a change, a place where your talents would be truly valued and unleashed, we would create something truly special for you at Apex Innovations. I had been fiercely loyal to NovaCore Solutions back then, to Mr. Bishop's legacy. Now I was free, unshackled by misplaced loyalty. But I didn't call Ms. Hayes immediately. Instead, I drove out to Clearview Lake, a place I often went to think, the calm expanse of water, soothing balm for a troubled mind. I sat on a weathered bench, watching the small boats cut silently through the dark, reflective water. For the first time in what felt like years, my thoughts weren't consumed by server loads, urgent code deployments, or the looming threat of system failures. A fragile sense of peace began to settle over me. Then, inevitably, my phone rang again, shattering the tranquility. It was Mr. Thorne. Evans? His voice was strained, the usual arrogance noticeably absent. Marcus, I replied, keeping my tone even, betraying none of the turmoil within. Noah, we really need to talk, he stammered, a far cry from the decisive suit who had dismissed me without a second thought. The situation here is critical, beyond critical, actually. I'm listening, Mr. Thorne, I said, my voice calm, measured. Our major clients are threatening to leave, Noah, in droves. He sounded desperate now. The Innovatech consultants. They can't figure out your system architecture. The Aegis system is a black box to them. A long, painful pause. We need you back, Evans. Now. As what, Mr. Thorne? I asked, the question hanging heavy in the air between us. Another pause, this one filled with the unspoken weight of his rapidly dwindling options. As a senior consultant, of course, he finally managed, trying to inject a semblance of authority into his voice. With appropriate, very generous compensation, naturally. In the outdated legacy systems, Mr. Thorne? I pressed, twisting the knife just a little. The ones that were holding NovaCore back? Yet another pause, longer this time, heavy with his dawning humiliation. We may have been somewhat hasty in our initial assessment of the Aegis system's capabilities, he conceded, the words sounding like they were physically painful for him to utter. I watched a majestic blue heron land gracefully on a weathered dock across the still water, its movements fluid and unhurried. A small, ironic smile touched my lips. I'll think about it, Mr. Thorne, I said, knowing full well, with absolute certainty, that I wouldn't be going back. Not as a consultant. Not on their terms. Never again. On the drive home from Clearview Lake, my mind felt quiet, a sense of calm resolve settling over me. The realization wasn't just that they desperately needed me and my intimate knowledge of Aegis. It was something far more profound, far more liberating. I didn't need them anymore. 2 days later, after carefully considering her previous overture, I accepted Ms. Hayes' invitation for lunch. We met at a quiet, upscale restaurant in Bellevue, a deliberate choice to be away from the prying eyes and wagging tongues of Seattle's bustling tech district. I heard about NovaCore Solutions' current situation, Olivia said diplomatically after we had ordered, her expression carefully neutral, though her eyes held a knowing gleam. Their systems, particularly Aegis, have been dangerously unstable for nearly a week now, from what the industry chatter suggests. I simply nodded, offering no confirmation or denial, letting her continue. Their enterprise clients are getting extremely nervous, especially the large healthcare networks. Data integrity and uptime are paramount for them. I took a slow sip of iced water, my gaze steady. They have some capable engineers over at NovaCore, I'm sure, she continued. But they no longer have the architect, the one person who truly understands the intricate dance of the Cerberus engine. She studied me then, her intelligent eyes assessing, calculating. You built something truly remarkable there, Noah, she said, her voice sincere. Something powerful and elegant that shouldn't be allowed to crumble and be lost simply because of corporate short-sightedness and executive arrogance. She slid a sleek, leather-bound folder across the linen tablecloth. Inside, nestled on crisp, expensive paper, was a formal job offer. Chief Innovation Officer at Apex Innovations. The proposed salary was more than double what I had been earning at NovaCore. It included a substantial equity package and the explicit promise of a hand-picked team of my choosing. We want to build the next generation of what you created with Aegis, Noah, she said, leaning forward slightly, her voice earnest. But this time, with you properly valued, properly respected, and properly rewarded from day one. I told her I would think about it, that it was a very generous offer, but that I needed to discuss it with Sarah first. Family always came first. When I got home later that afternoon, a sleek, black sedan, the kind favored by corporate lawyers and high-powered executives, was parked conspicuously at the curb outside our house. 2 men in expensive, dark suits stood on my porch, their expressions grim and officious. They were, undoubtedly, NovaCore Solutions lawyers sent by Sterling Capital Group. Mr. Evans, the older one said, his voice devoid of any pleasantries, as I approached my own front door. We've been attempting to reach you regarding an urgent company matter pertaining to NovaCore Solutions. I'm not with the company anymore, I stated plainly, my hand resting on the doorknob. This concerns intellectual property allegedly developed during your employment at NovaCore Solutions, the lawyer continued, his tone becoming more pointed. We will require access to all your personal electronic devices for immediate forensic examination. This is standard procedure in these delicate situations. I knew instantly what they were truly after. Any shred of evidence, however flimsy, that I might have taken company code or, more desperately, used company resources to develop the Cerberus engine algorithm years ago. They were searching for anything at all, to try and invalidate my copyright, to seize control of my intellectual property. You'll need to speak directly with my attorney, I said calmly, pulling his business card from my wallet and handing it to the older lawyer. His eyes narrowed slightly as he took it. I have nothing further to discuss with you gentlemen at this time. I then opened my front door and stepped inside, closing it firmly behind me, leaving them standing on my porch. That evening, as Sarah and I were cleaning up after dinner, my phone rang. It was Mr. Thorne, his voice now tight with a barely suppressed fury. Your lawyer is being exceptionally difficult, Evans, he bit out, dispensing with any pretense of civility. This entire situation could get very messy, very quickly for you. Protracted legal battles, damaging public statements. Reputations could be harmed. He paused, letting the threat hang in the air. None of us want that, do we? What exactly do you want, Marcus? I asked, using his first name deliberately, stripping away the corporate formality. Come back to NovaCore for 6 months, he said, his voice a low growl. Full salary, of course. Help the transition team, these Innovatech consultants, understand the Aegis systems. Get everything stable. And then we'll part ways amicably. No fuss, no muss. He paused again, then delivered what he clearly thought was the clincher. NovaCore Solutions retains all rights to the technology naturally, and you get a clean break, a generous severance. Everyone wins. A cold, hard anger solidified within me. The Cerberus engine, the core algorithm of Aegis, was never NovaCore's property to begin with, Marcus, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. I licensed it to the company, to Samuel Bishop, before I was even officially an employee. It's my intellectual property. Silence crackled on the line. Then, a sputtering, incredulous. That's absurd, Evans. Preposterous. He was clearly blindsided. Everything you developed while on company time, using company resources, was work for hire. That's standard. You should check the original licensing agreement from 2004, Marcus, I advised, my voice like ice. It's still very much binding, and it explicitly states the Cerberus engine is mine. That documentation, it doesn't exist, he retorted, but the confidence in his voice was visibly faltering. We've been through everything, all the archived files. There's no such agreement. Mr. Bishop kept a copy, I informed him coolly. I kept a copy, naturally. A beat of silence as the implications began to sink in for him. And, most importantly, Marcus, the United States Copyright Office has a copy, officially registered and time-stamped. More silence, this time heavy and suffocating, filled only with the sound of his ragged breathing. We'll need to verify that claim, Evans, he finally said, his voice tight with a dawning, horrified realization. Take all the time you need, Marcus, I replied softly, and then I ended the call. The next day, NovaCore Solutions, presumably under orders from Sterling Capital Group and a panicked Mr. Thorne, locked out all my former team members' system access while the Innovatech experts attempted a desperate, ill-advised system rebuild from what little they understood. It was a catastrophic decision. By evening, 3 major client servers, crucial systems handling sensitive data, had crashed completely, their digital hearts ripped out by incompetence. Sarah found me in the garage later that night, methodically, almost obsessively, organizing tools I hadn't touched in years, the repetitive, physical task, a small anchor in the storm of my emotions. "They're completely imploding over there, aren't they?" she asked gently, leaning against the workbench, her arms crossed. I nodded, not trusting myself to speak, the wrench in my hand feeling heavy. "Does that make you happy, Noah?" she ventured, her voice soft with understanding. I put down the wrench with a clatter, the sound echoing in the quiet garage. "No," I said, the word raw. "No, it doesn't. Good people still work there, Sarah. Dedicated, talented engineers who poured their hearts into Aegis." My voice was thick with a mixture of anger and sorrow. "They don't deserve this chaos, this corporate vandalism." "Neither did you, honey," she said softly, her hand finding mine, her touch a comforting warmth. "You didn't deserve any of this either." The following morning, the financial news outlets began reporting on NovaCore Solutions' unfolding disaster. The company's stock plummeted a staggering 20% in early trading as whispers of critical system failures and client defections turned into a roar. My phone lit up with text messages from my former team members, their words a torrent of confusion, fear, and thinly veiled accusation. "Noah, what did you do? Did you sabotage something in Aegis before you left? You have to tell us." I responded to each anxious message with the same calm, unequivocal statement. "I did absolutely nothing to harm the system. They, NovaCore management, and their new consultants attempted to modify a licensed core component, the Cerberus engine, without authorization and, more importantly, without understanding. That is what caused the failures." By afternoon, Mr. Thorne's tone had shifted dramatically from threats and bluster to desperate bargaining. He called again, his voice almost pleading, offering me a substantial, open-ended consulting contract and even a formal public apology from NovaCore Solutions and Sterling Capital Group. I didn't respond. I simply let his increasingly frantic voicemails go unanswered. That evening, one of the Innovatech consultants, presumably sifting through digital mountains of archived data in a desperate search for answers, finally stumbled upon the original licensing agreement for the Cerberus engine, buried deep within Mr. Bishop's meticulously kept electronic files. Within an hour of that discovery, NovaCore Solutions' legal team contacted my attorney. Their tone, my lawyer later recounted with considerable satisfaction, was entirely different, respectful, conciliatory, and bordering on terrified. The elaborate trap they had intended to spring on me, the one designed to strip me of my intellectual property and silence my dissent, had collapsed catastrophically around them instead. Justice, it seemed, had a way of asserting itself, even in the cutthroat world of corporate takeovers. A week after my termination, the dust still settling from NovaCore's self-inflicted implosion, I met Samuel Bishop for lunch. He'd been officially retired for 3 years, enjoying his well-deserved peace, but he still kept a fond, watchful eye on NovaCore Solutions, the company he had poured his heart and soul into founding. "They really stepped in it this time, Noah, didn't they?" he said, slowly shaking his head, a wry, sad smile playing on his lips. He looked older, more frail than I remembered, but his eyes still held that familiar spark of sharp intelligence. "Trying to rebuild your Cerberus engine from scratch with those consultants." He made a dismissive gesture. "Absolute idiots." We were sitting at his favorite old-fashioned diner in Boulder, a quiet spot far from the prying eyes of the Denver tech scene, a place where he could be himself, just Samuel. The aroma of coffee and grilled onions hung comfortingly in the air. Did you know this was going to happen, Samuel?" I asked, the question that had been burning in my mind. Mr. Bishop slowly stirred his black coffee, his gaze distant for a moment. "I knew they didn't truly understand what they were buying, Noah," he said finally, his voice laced with a weary resignation. "These private equity types, these Sterling Capital people, they rarely do." He sighed. "They see balance sheets, revenue streams, projected earnings. They see numbers, not the intricate architecture, not the soul of the technology. He reached into his worn leather briefcase, a relic from his CO days, and pulled out an equally worn, dog-eared folder. He slid it carefully across the Formica tabletop towards me. "Remember this, Noah?" My breath caught in my throat. Inside was our original partnership agreement from way back in 2004. This wasn't the standard company employment contract. This was the personal agreement forged between Samuel Bishop, the visionary founder, and Noah Evans, the young, ambitious programmer. It stated in clear, unambiguous legal language that the Cerberus engine algorithm, my creation, remained my intellectual property. NovaCore Solutions was granted an exclusive, perpetual license to use it, contingent, and this was the crucial part on my continued employment or a mutually agreed upon separation agreement. A wave of gratitude mixed with a fresh surge of anger at Mr. Thorne's blatant disregard for such a foundational document washed over me. "You protected me, even back then," I said, my voice thick with emotion. Mr. Bishop simply nodded, a gentle smile gracing his lips. "You were taking a significant risk, Noah, joining a fledgling startup with a young family to support." His eyes twinkled. "I wanted to make sure you would always keep ownership of your brilliant creation, your Cerberus engine, if things ever went south with the company. Did you tell the new owners? Sterling Capital? Did you tell Thorne?" I pressed, needing to understand the full picture. "I tried, Noah. I truly did," he said, a note of frustration creeping into his voice. "I mentioned it specifically during the due diligence process when they were acquiring NovaCore." He made air quotes with his fingers, a gesture of mild contempt. "They weren't particularly interested in boring technical details from the past, as their lead negotiator put it. They just wanted the assets, the client list, the projected revenue, the quick flip." That's when the final, chilling piece of the puzzle clicked into place. Mr. Thorne hadn't just fired me on a whim driven by ego or a misguided belief in his fresh perspectives. Sterling Capital Group, the private equity firm, was systematically planning to strip NovaCore Solutions for parts. They intended to sell off the valuable client relationships and the proprietary Aegis technology separately, aiming for maximum, short-term profit, with no regard for the company's legacy or its employees. They needed me gone because I was the only one who truly understood how every intricate piece of Aegis connected, how the Cerberus engine was its irreplaceable heart. My termination wasn't about bringing in fresh perspectives at all. It was about making their cynical, destructive asset stripping operation easier, smoother, and more profitable for them. The bastards. "There's more, Noah," Mr. Bishop said quietly, his voice dropping, pulling me back from my dark thoughts. He leaned in conspiratorially. "Before I officially left NovaCore, before I signed that final sale agreement with Sterling Capital, I managed to slip a rather interesting clause into the fine print. A predatory gleam, one I hadn't seen in years, flickered in his eyes. If the core technology, specifically the Aegis system powered by your Cerberus engine, becomes non-functional or substantially impaired for more than 10 consecutive business days, I, Samuel Bishop, have the explicit right to buy back the entire company, NovaCore Solutions, at a predetermined, independently audited fair market price." I stared at him, dumbfounded, my coffee growing cold in my cup. Why on earth would they agree to something like that? I finally managed to ask, my mind reeling. A slow, satisfied smile spread across Mr. Bishop's face. "They didn't really read the fine print, Noah," he said, a chuckle rumbling in his chest. "They were too focused on closing the deal quickly, on getting their hands on what they thought was a quick win." He winked. "Also, I may have creatively framed it as a clause that protected their investment, in the unlikely event that the core technology somehow failed catastrophically under their brilliant new management. So you can actually buy NovaCore back?" I asked, the implications of his revelation starting to dawn on me, a wild, improbable hope blossoming in my chest. "No, Noah. he corrected gently, his smile widening. "We can buy it back." He leaned forward again, his voice now filled with a renewed energy. "I've got some money set aside, a comfortable nest egg, and a few of the original NovaCore investors, the ones who believed in us from the very beginning, are very interested in rejoining the fold." His gaze met mine, intense and unwavering. "But we'd need you, Noah. We'd need your Cerberus engine. We'd need your leadership to rebuild it, to make it even better." The pieces were shifting rapidly in my mind, forming a new, audacious picture. This wasn't about revenge, not anymore. It was about something far more precise, far more satisfying. A correction. A chance to restore what had been broken, to reclaim what had been unjustly taken. That evening, after returning from my enlightening lunch with Mr. Bishop, I received an email from an anonymous, encrypted account. My heart pounded as I opened it. Inside was irrefutable digital evidence, internal memos and email chains, proving that Mr. Thorne and the Innovatech consultants had been actively and secretly planning to sell off NovaCore's lucrative healthcare division to a direct competitor. This move would have been a flagrant violation of multiple client confidentiality agreements and could have potentially exposed sensitive patient data, a compliance nightmare of epic proportions. One of my former, loyal team members at NovaCore was clearly and bravely feeding me critical information from inside the crumbling fortress. I immediately and securely forwarded the entire explosive package to my lawyer with a simple instruction: handle this. Next day, as predicted, 3 of NovaCore Solutions' largest and most influential clients publicly announced they were suspending their multi-million-dollar contracts, citing ongoing system unreliability and serious concerns about data integrity. Their combined business represented a staggering 40% of NovaCore's total annual revenue. The news sent shockwaves through the industry and caused NovaCore's already battered stock to nosedive even further. By the weekend, the Sterling Capital Group board, facing a full-blown crisis and potential lawsuits, called an emergency closed-door meeting. The outcome was swift and decisive. Marcus Thorne was immediately placed on administrative leave, his reign of terror effectively over. On day 9 of the crippling system failures, with Aegis still dark and unresponsive, NovaCore Solutions General Counsel, a man known for his aggressive tactics, reached out to my lawyer with a desperate settlement offer: a 7-figure payment, a substantial sum by any measure, in immediate exchange for the unconditional reinstatement of the Cerberus engine license. My lawyer conveyed the offer. I told him, no response. The silence would speak volumes. That night, Sarah and I sat on our back deck, the cool evening air, a welcome relief, watching the vibrant colors of the sunset paint the Seattle sky. The city lights twinkled in the distance, a stark contrast to the darkness enveloping NovaCore. "Samuel wants to buy the company back," I told her quietly, breaking the comfortable silence, the words feeling momentous even as I said them. She turned to me, her expression thoughtful, her eyes searching mine. "With you involved, Noah?" "Yes," I confirmed. "With me, a CTO and a significant partner." She took my hand, her fingers lacing through mine, a familiar gesture of support and love that had seen me through so many storms. "You want that, honey?" she asked softly, her voice filled with genuine concern. "After everything they put you through?" I thought about my 17 years at NovaCore. The endless lines of code, the exhilarating breakthroughs, the crushing disappointments, the late nights that blurred into early mornings, the countless missed family moments that I could never get back. I'm not sure yet, Sarah," I admitted honestly, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. "Tomorrow," I added, my voice barely a whisper. Tomorrow would be day 10. The deadline for Mr. Bishop's buyback clause. Day 10 arrived with an air of grim finality. NovaCore Solutions' Aegis systems remained stubbornly, catastrophically offline. Financial analysts across the country were openly predicting imminent bankruptcy if the situation wasn't resolved within hours. Panicked former colleagues, Those who hadn't already been laid off or resigned in disgust reported that the once bustling NovaCore office was now a ghost town, half empty, filled with an atmosphere of fear and despair. I met with Mr. Bishop and my attorney at a discreet, private office suite downtown, far from the prying eyes of the media. Olivia Hayes, the dynamic CTO of Apex Innovations, joined us via a secure video call, her image sharp and clear on the large screen. "The Sterling Capital Board is desperate, Noah," my lawyer explained, his tone crisp and professional. "They're hemorrhaging money and credibility by the hour." He consulted his notes. "They've officially offered $3 million cash for a permanent, irrevocable license transfer of the Cerberus engine. They want this nightmare to end today." "And if we wait, if we let the clock run out?" I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. "Mr. Bishop's buyback clause, as stipulated in the original sales agreement, activates precisely at midnight tonight," my lawyer confirmed, the ghost of a smile playing on his lips. "The predetermined buyback price for the entire NovaCore Solutions entity is $8 million. Mr. Bishop leaned forward in his chair, his eyes blazing with a fierce, rekindled determination. "I've already secured $4 million in firm backing from our original loyal investors, Noah," he announced, his voice resonating with confidence. "The other $4 million would have to come from new strategic partners." All eyes in the room, both physical and virtual, turned expectantly to Olivia Hayes on the screen. Ms. Hayes, ever the consummate professional, didn't miss a beat. "Apex Innovations is prepared to partner in this venture," she stated clearly, her voice firm and decisive. "We will contribute the remaining $4 million for a 40% stake in the new NovaCore Solutions." She paused, her gaze locking onto mine through the screen. "This investment is, of course, contingent on Noah Evans joining the revitalized NovaCore as Chief Technology Officer, with an appropriate and significant equity position." I hadn't expected this particular twist, this alliance between my past and a potential future. I thought you wanted me at Apex Innovations, Ms. Hayes." "Olivia," I stammered, taken aback. "This is better, Noah," Olivia replied, a rare, warm smile gracing her features. "Much better. You'd be rebuilding something that clearly matters deeply to you, something you poured your life into. But this time, you'll have the right team, the right resources, and the unwavering support you deserve." She leaned closer to the camera. "And, from a purely business perspective, our two companies, Apex and the new NovaCore, could develop powerful joint ventures and strategic alliances that would significantly benefit both organizations. It's a win-win." My mind raced, a whirlwind of possibilities, risks, and rewards. Taking back NovaCore Solutions, wresting it from the clutches of Sterling Capital, would mean saving hundreds of jobs, protecting the invaluable client relationships that Mr. Bishop and I had painstakingly built over decades. It would mean continuing the work I believed in, the work I was passionate about, but on my own terms. "There's one more thing," I said, my voice firm, cutting through the buzz of excitement in the room. "The current employees at NovaCore, many of them stayed loyal through all of this chaos, despite everything. They showed incredible courage and integrity." My gaze swept across the faces in the room. "They deserve protection. They deserve to be part of this new beginning." "Agreed, Noah, wholeheartedly," Mr. Bishop said immediately, his voice ringing with conviction. "No layoffs for at least 6 months guaranteed. And we will immediately implement a comprehensive employee stock ownership program. They will have a real stake in the company they help rebuild." I nodded slowly, a profound sense of rightness settling over me. The anger, the bitterness, the desire for revenge, it all seemed to fade, replaced by a steely determination. "Then I'm in," I declared. "Let's do this. Let's take NovaCore back." We spent the rest of the long, intense day preparing the mountain of necessary documentation. My lawyer, a whirlwind of focused energy, drafted the revised license transfer agreement for the Cerberus engine, incorporating specific conditions that protected my rights and ensured its ethical use. Mr. Bishop, re-energized and looking 10 years younger, personally contacted key Sterling Capital board members, influential figures who had worked with him in the past, patiently and persuasively explaining the situation and our proposed solution. Olivia Hayes and her team at Apex Innovations worked tirelessly, preparing the complex partnership terms and securing the necessary financial approvals. At precisely 5 p.m., we submitted the formal, legally binding notice of Samuel Bishop's intent to exercise his buyback option for NovaCore Solutions, effective at midnight. The clock was officially ticking. At 6 p.m., my phone rang. It was Marcus Thorne, his voice raw with a panic that was almost palpable. "Evans, Noah, whatever they're offering you, whatever Bishop and Hayes are promising, Sterling Capital will double it, triple it," he blurted out, his words tumbling over each other in a desperate torrent. "Just fix the Aegis systems, Noah. Today, name your price." "It's not about money, Marcus," I said calmly, the chaos of his desperation a stark contrast to the quiet resolve I now felt. "Then what is it?" he almost shrieked. "What do you want? A public apology? Is that it? You'll get it. Your old job back? Consider it done. With a raise. A huge raise. Just name it, Evans. Anything. It's about building something that lasts, Marcus," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "Something that genuinely matters. Something with integrity. This is business, Evans, not some idealistic crusade," he sputtered, his voice cracking. I hung up, the click of the disconnecting call a small, satisfying sound. By 8 p.m., the news came through official channels. Marcus Thorne had been officially terminated by the Sterling Capital Group Board, effective immediately. They then reached out directly to Mr. Bishop and me, their tone now one of complete desperation, eager to avoid the public humiliation and financial fallout of the forced buyback. "We've made mistakes, Mr. Bishop, Mr. Evans," the chairman of Sterling Capital admitted, his voice heavy with defeat during a tense conference call. "Serious misjudgments, but we can still make this right. We can find a mutually agreeable solution." "You're absolutely right, Mr. Chairman," I agreed, my voice polite but unyielding. "You can make this right by honoring the terms of Samuel Bishop's legally binding buyback clause and by facilitating an orderly, professional transition of NovaCore Solutions to its new rightful ownership." At 11:30 p.m., just 30 minutes before the midnight deadline, they conceded. Their lawyers, after a frantic flurry of calls and internal consultations, informed us that the Sterling Capital Board had officially approved Mr. Bishop's buyback of NovaCore Solutions. Apex Innovations partnership was formally accepted. The final, crucial paperwork was electronically signed, witnessed, and transmitted. At precisely midnight, I sat at my familiar kitchen table, the same table where I had processed the shock of my dismissal just 10 days earlier. With a deep breath, I wrote a simple, direct email to my former, and now future, team at NovaCore Solutions. Subject: an important announcement regarding NovaCore Solutions and the Aegis system. Team: the Cerberus engine, and therefore the Aegis system, will be fully reinstated and operational tomorrow morning. NovaCore Solutions is now under new ownership, dedicated to its long-term success and the well-being of its employees. No jobs will be lost as a result of this transition. I will explain everything in detail at an all-hands meeting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. I look forward to seeing you all there. Sincerely, Noah Evans. Sarah sat quietly beside me, her hand resting gently on my shoulder as I hit send. The email disappeared into the digital ether, carrying a message of hope and renewal. "So," she said softly, after a moment of shared silence, "you're really going back to NovaCore?" I closed my laptop, a sense of profound peace settling over me. "Not back, Sarah," I corrected gently, a small smile playing on my lips. "Forward." I met her gaze, my eyes reflecting the new dawn I felt breaking within me. "It's a different company now. Or it will be." We'll build it on different terms with different values. I reached for her hand. It means I'll be busier than ever for a while, I know, I admitted, the challenge ahead very real. But this time, Sarah, I promise you, I won't miss the important stuff. Not again. She smiled then, a genuine, radiant smile that reached her eyes, a mixture of skepticism and unwavering, loving support. The next morning, I drove to the NovaCore Solutions office building, the familiar route now imbued with a completely new significance. It was the first time I had set foot on the property since my abrupt termination. As I walked through the expansive lobby, heads turned. People stared. Some faces registered confusion, others a dawning, incredulous relief. Whispers followed me like a ripple in a pond. Emily, from accounting, saw me by the elevators and rushed over, her eyes wide with a million unspoken questions. She threw her arms around me in a spontaneous, heartfelt hug. Noah, what on earth happened? She whispered urgently, her voice a mixture of shock and elation. We heard rumors, but it's a long story, Emily, I said, returning her hug warmly. A very long story. I smiled, but the short version is, sometimes you have to let something break completely before you can fix it properly, make it stronger than it was before. The main conference room, the same one where Mr. Thorne had so coldly dismissed me, was packed to overflowing for the all-hands meeting. A palpable buzz of anticipation, anxiety, and cautious hope filled the air. Mr. Bishop stood at the front, looking energized and resolute, a decade younger than his actual age. Olivia Hayes, from Apex Innovations, joined us via a large video screen, her presence commanding and reassuring. I took my place beside them, facing the sea of familiar faces, my team, my colleagues. I felt the immense weight and the incredible privilege of what we were about to rebuild together. This wasn't about revenge, I realized with sudden clarity. It was about restoration. It was about redemption. It was about building a future worthy of the past's best ideals. 6 months after regaining control of NovaCore Solutions, we held a major product launch for our new flagship system at the prestigious Skyline Convention Center in downtown Denver. The vast hall was packed to capacity with clients, industry analysts, influential tech journalists, and even a few curious competitors. Mr. Bishop, in his element, opened the event with a stirring account of NovaCore's storied history and his renewed vision for its future. Olivia Hayes then spoke eloquently about the powerful strategic partnership between NovaCore Solutions and Apex Innovations, outlining a future of collaborative innovation. Then, it was my turn. I stepped to the podium, the spotlight warm on my face, a sea of expectant faces before me. I was acutely aware that Marcus Thorne, my previous tormentor, was sitting in the back row, a sullen, almost invisible figure. He had, I'd heard, landed a lesser role at a struggling competitor and was clearly here today on a mission to gather intelligence, perhaps hoping to witness our failure. Today, I began, my voice clear and confident, resonating through the hall. We are incredibly proud to unveil Phoenix Suite. The massive screens behind me lit up, displaying the sleek, intuitive interface of our completely reimagined system architecture. Phoenix Suite builds upon the proven core strengths and reliability of Aegis, the system you all know and trust, while fully embracing the exciting new possibilities of next-generation technology. The interface on the screens was indeed streamlined, incredibly powerful, and undeniably elegant, a testament to the team's hard work and vision. But what truly makes this new system unique, what sets Phoenix Suite apart, I continued, my gaze sweeping across the audience, isn't just the groundbreaking technology under the hood. It's the remarkable people behind it. Our dedicated team, many of whom have been with NovaCore Solutions for over a decade, through thick and thin, built this together with passion, dedication, and an unwavering commitment to excellence. I paused and nodded respectfully towards the front row where my incredible development team sat, their faces beaming with pride. And, in recognition of their indispensable contributions, We have restructured NovaCore solutions so that every single employee now has a meaningful ownership stake in our company. A ripple of surprised murmurs went through the audience, followed by a growing wave of applause. Their commitment, their talent, their loyalty deserves nothing less than to share in the success they create. The applause grew louder, more sustained. I noticed, out of the corner of my eye, Marcus Thorne shifting uncomfortably in his seat, his expression darkening. We have also established the NovaCore Foundation, I announced, moving to the next key point. A nonprofit initiative which will open source select components of our Phoenix Suite technology for use in education, academic research, and vital public service projects around the world. More applause, this time mixed with appreciative nods from the academic and nonprofit representatives in the audience. Finally, I said, saving the most impactful announcement for last, I am exceptionally pleased to announce that every single NovaCore client who was adversely affected by last year's regrettable system failures will receive 2 full years of Phoenix Suite service completely free of charge, along with comprehensive, fully supported migration to our new platform. The room erupted. The applause was deafening, a wave of genuine enthusiasm and relief. It was an incredibly bold and expensive move financially, a significant investment in goodwill. But Mr. Bishop, Olivia, and I had been in complete agreement. Rebuilding trust, restoring faith in the NovaCore name was worth any cost. As we opened the floor for questions from the eager press and analysts, I saw Marcus Thorne slip quietly, almost furtively, out the back door of the convention hall. He had come expecting to witness a company still limping, perhaps even collapsing, from the disaster he had largely orchestrated. Instead, he had witnessed a company not just recovered, but utterly transformed by it, reborn stronger, more resilient, and more principled than ever before. His new employer's stock, I later learned, dropped a significant 8% by the closing bell that day. Sometimes, I mused, the best revenge isn't about striking back directly. Sometimes, it's simply about rising higher, achieving more, and building something truly exceptional out of the ashes of adversity. 1 year after the momentous buyback of NovaCore Solutions, I drove out to Clearview Lake on a bright, clear Saturday morning. There was no laptop bag on the passenger seat, no incessantly buzzing phone demanding my attention. Just a simple fishing rod, a well-stocked small cooler, and the promise of a peaceful day. Mr. Bishop Samuel was waiting for me in his sturdy, comfortable boat, his silver hair glinting under his worn, favorite baseball cap. "Right on time, Noah," he said with a warm smile as I carefully climbed aboard, the boat rocking gently. We navigated to his favorite secluded spot on the lake, the water like glass, reflecting the vast blue sky. We cast our lines and settled into a comfortable, companionable silence, the only sounds the gentle lapping of water against the hull and the distant call of a loon. Board approved the next phase of the employee ownership expansion last week, Samuel mentioned casually after a long, peaceful while, his eyes on his fishing line. Another 5% of company stock allocated to the employee trust. "Good," I said, watching my own line intently. "That's really good, Samuel. They've more than earned it. Every single one of them. We caught nothing for a good hour. Not that it mattered. We just talked about our families, about the fortunes of the local baseball team, about everything and anything but work. It was a much-needed respite." Eventually, as the sun began to climb higher, Samuel asked, his voice thoughtful, "Do you ever think about how it all played out, Noah? The whole saga?" I considered his question for a long moment, reeling in my lines slowly, thoughtfully. The past 18 months had been, without a doubt, the most challenging, exhausting, and ultimately rewarding period of my entire professional career. Taking back the company from the brink, meticulously rebuilding not just the Aegis system into the Phoenix Suite, but also the shattered morale and company culture, and, most importantly, finding a healthier, more sustainable balance between my demanding work and my precious home life. "I think about the Cerberus engine sometimes," I admitted, my voice quiet. That original algorithm. How something I created all those years ago, alone in my tiny apartment, fueled by nothing but coffee and a crazy idea, became the foundation for everything that followed. Any regrets, Noah? Samuel asked gently, his gaze kind. I shook my head, a slow, deliberate movement. No, not anymore. I could have left NovaCore for another, higher-paying job countless times over the years, I mused. I could have tried to start my own company with Cerberus as the core. But I stayed. I stayed because I truly believed in what we were building together, Samuel. In the vision we shared. And now? He prompted. Now, I said, a sense of profound clarity washing over me. Now I understand the crucial difference between blind loyalty and true ownership, between just building something for someone else and actually belonging to it, shaping its destiny. Suddenly, my fishing line went taut, the tip of the rod bending sharply towards the water. Adrenaline surged through me. I stood up carefully in the rocking boat, skillfully, patiently reeling in what felt like a decent-sized bass, the line singing softly as it cut through the water. After a brief, spirited struggle, we got it into the boat, a beautiful, glistening fish. Samuel laughed, a hearty, joyful sound that echoed across the quiet lake. Still got the touch, Noah. You never lost it. Later that afternoon, as we motored slowly back towards the shore, the sun beginning its descent, I noticed the NovaCore Solutions building visible in the far distance, its newly redesigned logo catching the golden afternoon sunlight. It wasn't the same company I had left in anger and disillusionment. It was better in so many fundamental ways, yet still finding its new path, still evolving, still growing. But it was ours, truly ours. Not just mine, not just Samuel's, not just Olivia's and Apex Innovations. It belonged to everyone who had poured their talent, their energy, their belief into building it, piece by painstaking piece, through crisis and triumph. Some things, I realized, looking out at the distant, gleaming building, you simply can't own alone. And some things, the truly important things, you absolutely shouldn't.